I'm diving in, yeah. Diving in the deep end for you. I'm giving in to love.
Hi everyone, my name's Declan McLean and we are super excited today to be joined by Swedish duo Cazzette to take a look at their new track, State of Bliss, in FL Studio. How you doing, guys?
Good. How are you?
Welcome.
Great.
Thank you.
So before we get into State of Bliss and how you produced it, I just wanted to ask you guys a little bit about your background. How did you start making electronic music and how did you start making it together?
I started making electronic music when I was 14 or 15. I always listened to it since I was a kid, so for me it was kind of natural. And we met when I was 17.
Yes.
We started talking then.
Yeah.
We met on MySpace at that
Classic.
time. We're not from the same city in Sweden, so that's how we started working together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was also 14, 15, something like that. I went to this high school disco or whatever, and it was really cool at the time, but I realize now how bad it actually was. But it was good enough to get me interested in starting DJing. And shortly after, I was like, well, DJing is cool, but I also want to make the music.
Yeah, do you remember what those first tracks sounded like?
Oh, yeah, unfortunately I do. I don't think anything was in key at all.
Right.
Yeah, I just learned by doing, so, because I don't have any musical training at all, so it must have been really bad in the beginning. But I don't know, I always enjoyed it, so I stuck with it, and I think it sounds fairly good now, though.
Yeah, exactly. So how did you guys end up working together?
Like Sebastian said, we met on MySpace,
Right.
and we just started sending demos back and forth to each other. And one day we decided to try out a project together, and it moved really quick after that, really, when you think about it.
6 months after we started working together, we got signed. So
Wow.
it went really quickly from there, yeah.
We had a good workflow, and we still work the same way as we did back then. Like, we sit on ourselves, like we don't sit together and produce. Like, we just send the project file back and forth.
It's probably the first time we sit together with on the same computer for maybe a few months.
So why do you think that is? I mean, is it just you both prefer to work alone?
I think it's just easier. You can spend as much time as you like on, coming up with the idea you have in your head. And I think that's why.
Yeah.
Without annoying the partner. Because
If he wants to sit with Hyatt for 40 hours, I'm not going to want to be a part of that.
Yeah, like I'm not sticking around.
If he
for
has
that.
this vision about this Hyatt, I don't want to be a part of it until it's done.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, though, because a lot of the time when we interview duos, it's actually the opposite. They like having someone there because they don't spend 40 hours in a hi-hat because the other person goes, it's fine, let's move on. You guys would be the opposite then.
I want to have that time.
Yeah,
And it's
me
the same
too.
for him. It just makes everything easier. I mean, we go in together like in the end of the song and mix it and like master it and make sure everything is right. But in the creative process, no, not never.
Your setup at the minute, is it you have two separate setups and do you even have a studio together or is it separate?
Yeah, we have a big studio. We don't have it, but our management label has a big studio in Stockholm with 5 individual studios.
Yeah.
But so it's kind of ridiculous. Like if I'm there, because I don't live in Stockholm, but if I'm there, I sit in this room and Seb would sit in the room next to me, and we would work for a whole day, and then
we meet up for dinner.
Yeah, and then like switch project files and
Is
discuss.
it slightly competitive then? Who can make the best track in a day?
No.
No.
It's more. Oh, that's interesting that you did that today. I did this, and then we combine it.
Yeah, and
More fun, exciting.
Yeah, for sure. Does it work the same way with vocalists then when you're collaborating? Where you all work separately and you come together at
then
the
it's
end?
more all together.
I mean, if we write a song together with an artist, like if we want a top line, we usually sit together and just come up with the idea. But that's usually, then we don't sit with hi-hats for 40 hours. You know what I mean?
Then
That's
it's
more
more
like
about melodies and like lyrics and stuff.
then
like
it's
that.
also important that both like it as much. Because if I go in and write with somebody, then come to Alex and he says, no, I don't like this vocal at all. Just like, yeah, okay. Then what you're gonna do then? So it's better to sit together when you create ideas from start with vocals and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and vocals are a big part of your sound. I mean, why do you think that is? Do you always want to get something organic in there?
Maybe,
Well,
I mean, it's
But everybody likes
interesting.
vocals.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one the like you can also do so much with vocals. I noticed lately if you cut out vocals and like reverse it, distort it, auto-tune it, like and basically fuck it up, it will sound so unique. And there's no synth that can get that. I think that's why I really like vocals, because you can do so much with it. So for instance, if a vocal like this you write a song and this is what you get. You can even cut it out and create melodies and like a riff out of the vocal by screwing it up. And FL Studio has a great plugin called Fruity Slicer that we used since the beginning, forever. It was a really cheesy plugin when it first came out. I didn't understand it, but then now the last 2 years I realized how genius that thing is, because you put in the vocal and they slice it up for you in the piano roll.
Like tiny bits of it?
Tiny bits of it. So you can just like move it like you do with the piano roll and pitch it and like do stuff in that. So it's so easy to use and makes everything way more fun to...
Yeah, so it takes the transients and puts them on each key, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, speaking of FL Studio,
Yeah.
do you want to introduce State of Bliss and how this track came about?
Yeah, of course. Should we just listen to it for a bit first?
Yeah, sure.
I'm diving in, yeah. Diving in the deep end for you. I'm giving in to love. Like I've got nothing to lose. I know that it's crazy, but I can't resist. Baby, no one ever made me feel like this. Wanna spend forever in this state of bliss with you. With you. I don't want nobody else. The love we got is unlike anything I felt. And I don't want nobody else. Nothing will do if I can't have you. Can't have you if I can't have you. Can't have you.
So yeah, that's like kind of the basis of the song. We'll move forward with it after a while, I guess. I think about R&B when I hear this, like especially like the intro. It's kind of a strong intro with a synth and the like 808 bass. If we take a look at that, it sounds like this.
This is how unorganized we are.
Yeah, lots of automation going on. Gotta make sure.
Usually nowadays, like we do, like organize it a little bit better, but sometimes you don't have the energy to do it, because when you're in the mood, you just don't care about it, and then it's too late to fix it almost.
So Seb, do you want to talk a bit about the synths, since you actually were the one who designed it?
Yes, we did maybe, I'm not kidding, like 25 versions of this song, like in the last 2 years. We've been having this a cappella for so long and never came up with anything that we really fell in love with, like the beat-wise, and then we created this instrumental and thought it was really fitting. So this was the one for it. But yeah, I did this synth one day. I just listened to a lot of R&B and more kind of like The Weeknd, a little bit Flume and Disclosure. Also some more old school, like, yeah, old school R&B. So I wanted like something in that mood. So I did the synth and I did a pitch thing here with the decay, sorry. And I pulled it up so basically make it sound like wow, like it's more like you...
It moves.
It moves a little bit more, and it almost sounds like you have portamento on there, but it goes all the time. So it sounds like that wow, like...
See how it sounds without that. See, it's way more flat and not as interesting.
Yeah, so, and then I did an automation with LFO here on the cutoff, which you can also pull down the gain.
Yeah.
Right. So just giving the sound some...
Yeah, it gives them
Yeah.
some movement. It sounds more alive.
Yeah.
And I'm really, when I make synths, I tend to always go to, like I want it to sound as alive as it can be. Because it's just boring when it's just like, da, da. Like it's nice sometimes to keep it simple, but in this case it was really nice to just experiment and do it, make it sound a little bit more organic.
And then there's a pretty heavy 808 bass synth underneath here as well. just basically playing the bass line of the chords.
And which synth is that? Is that built-in FL synth?
Sub-boom bass.
Yeah.
Rob Papen.
Yeah.
It's, yeah. I haven't found any like new version of this one. I think it's like a really old plugin though. It's a little unstable, but
Yeah, I was so disappointed when we got it because the sounds are so nice. There was a friend of ours who showed it to us, and then when we bought it, it was just the pitch sometimes just goes off, and when you scroll down here, it can suddenly change the preset in the plugin and stuff. It's just been so many bugs, but in this case we solved it because we really wanted that 808 bass, so that's fine. But it's been a struggle with that plugin, but it's nice sounds, absolutely.
let's see what as the track evolves. There's a second pad. I don't even remember how that sounds, so let's check that one out.
So this is more of a string.
Yeah,
Classic
exactly.
string
So that comes in
Which
after
one is
a
it?
while. The second pad right here.
Double click it. Yeah, that's more
Yeah,
presets.
that's from somewhere. I don't know.
So in terms of notes, that kind of has like variations
Yeah.
of the chords of the other one.
Yeah. Yeah,
Kind of
this-
bounces off it.
Exactly. See here, we got something else in the background. And you wouldn't think, you wouldn't
Exactly like
think,
an ambulance.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it rises too in volume. Yeah, and then it moves on to the build up here.
Yeah.
But talking a little bit about the vocals then, since it's such a big part of this song, this is actually how the vocals sounded when we got them.
I'm diving in, yeah,
And I think this is why we fell for the track in the beginning. It has a very like MJ vibe to
exactly,
it,
yeah.
and which is cool. But it didn't really like.
It was so
Sebastian-
hard when we had it in this because I think the original keys might be C or D. I remember. Anyhow, the key of the vocal was made it too happy, and the chorus that we had at first was just very boring. And so it was so hard because the vocal was so nice, but it felt like everything production-wise just became too happy.
Right.
And when we pitched it down, it made it more aggressive sounding, which we wanted a little bit. Not aggressive, but like a little bit more mature and not like happy pop music, you know.
More
so,
minor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just to compare the two of them, this is the
diving
original,
in the deep
and
end for you.
then we got.
Diving in the deep end for you.
It's
So
700
Yeah, I think
cents
so.
down, I think.
And that's just using FL's built-in pitch shifting.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think FL's
See right here.
built-in pitch is amazing.
Yeah.
I've seen like Logics and like and stuff like that, and like every time we have our buddies who work in Logic, we can just ask them, "Oh, pitch down the vocal," and they're like, "Oh no, it's gonna take so much time. It's gonna sound crap."
Yeah,
and I have to
yeah.
do this. I'm like, "Okay." The FL is just like one button. You just push it down. It sounds nice, which is a good thing for us because we like to pitch it down stuff and pitch up and all that.
And
I
in
would
terms
never-
of mixing the vocal, that reverb came with the recording.
Yeah, in this case, yeah, we asked for the dry files, but we couldn't really recreate the vibe from those. Otherwise, obviously, we prefer to work with dry vocals. But sometimes, you know, if it sounds good, then why do the extra struggle? Because
Yeah,
you know, if everything is there, there's really not any need to mess it up. Do you want to talk about the effects?
Yeah,
There's not a lot of stuff going on since they were
Because it's
wet.
already processed
Yeah.
pretty much.
So we just got some basic fruity verb, which has a very like cheap sound, like very plastic.
Yeah.
But it's cool to sometimes to use it, you know. Some equalizing.
Yeah, I got off some high frequencies because it
Yeah.
sounded like crap. If you take it off, just that one.
Diving in the deep end for you. I'm giving in to
There's
love.
no EQ.
Like I've got nothing to lose.
It sounds like that was imparted by the room that it was recorded in.
Yeah.
If you do
So
this,
it's like a resonant notch.
okay, now we're gonna be.
Diving in the deep end
Right.
for you.
See, you got those
I'm
horrible
giving in
frequencies.
to love.
Yeah, and that's just.
Like I've got nothing to lose.
What is it?
I know that it's crazy, but I can't.
But it makes a big
resist.
difference.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because sometimes when you even get like nicely recorded vocals, it can be, depending on the person, like the singer's, like how the voice is, can be very nasal and very like too high up, and it just like hurts your ears a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also some of the sir.
So yeah, so we have to take the SR too on top of that. So
We're very sensitive when it comes to those like higher frequencies. Out of experience, when you play stuff live, and we like to turn it up. And I think anyone who's standing behind the booth when we play can testify. It's pretty loud, and then it's important that you get rid of those like really screaming frequencies.
Yeah. What are you guys monitoring on? Your main monitors?
Genelex.
yeah,
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't found anything that can compete with that, to be honest.
no, yeah, Nex are the best.
Yeah. Speaking of high frequencies.
But you know what? When it's high frequencies in high strings, it sounds. If everything else is on point, it actually sounds quite nice in the mix. It doesn't. Some things just push it down a little bit, so it makes sense in the mix. You don't hear it that much.
Yeah.
But when you listen to it separate, you get crazy.
Yeah.
As you can hear, there's a volume automation for this one. It just rises.
Yeah. It adds the tension.
Exactly. It's like when you hear strings in movies, EDC, like you.
Yeah.
Kind of builds the suspense.
Yeah. Could show the main synths, maybe the bass and.
Of course. Yeah, because the drums
pluck
are
synths.
kind of. We can go through the drums separately, maybe.
Yeah.
There's some minor FX works down here, just some crashes and booms and risers. Pretty typical electronic music stuff. Especially with effects, it's so random what we use sometimes.
Yeah.
Like this is like, what is this? It's like some old claps or whatever, and it sounds good in the mix, but it's really weird. Like,
Yep.
it's important to use weird stuff, I think.
Yeah. It gives you some personality. yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Alex has a tendency to put like really weird stuff in songs sometimes. Sometimes he come in and say, "Oh, do you like this FX?" I'm like, "Yeah, nice. What is it?" He's like, "Oh, it's like a zipper that you're pulling up like."
Yeah.
And he use that as a reverse effect, and it sounds nice, but you don't think about it. Sometimes he can come in and use like a microwave, like when a microwave is done, like ding. Like
Yeah,
that
yeah, it's
sound.
cool
He
though.
uses
But,
that.
but
And
even if you could get that in a sample library, it's nice that you did it yourself.
Yeah.
Because through that process,
Yeah.
it's your own sonic stamp
Exactly.
on your
Exactly.
track.
And I think, like Seb were talking about before with the vocals, and you can use them for so much other stuff than just, the main vocal. It's important to use stuff what they're not supposed to be for, because that's how you come up with interesting ideas.
Yeah.
Talking about creativity.
All right, so the next bit is kind of like the main breakdown of the track, and the bass line comes in and stuff.
Exactly, this is where we introduce, like, I hate using the word drop, but it's kind of what it is, though. Hold on. There we go. So let's take a look at the bass line then. So we have a few different elements creating that sound. A lot of silence going on as usual. That's like one of our go-to synths.
Right.
We basically, it's in all of our songs. It's just such a easy synth to work with. So this is it. Like, this is what drives the whole through, like through the whole song once it's introduced, except for the second breakdown. We have a same 808 that's in the beginning. There's
Jag ska bara mute allt, ska bara ta ett i taget.
silence again. Kind of like an old school electro bass. How do you explain this? It's like a pluck.
Yeah, square plug.
It also has that very like old David Guetta sound to it. I feel like.
So you guys kind of have like individual synth sounds representing each kind of frequency hole, if you will.
Kinda, yeah.
And then you layer them up together.
Yeah,
So
we
trying
work a
to
lot
get
with
one sound to
layering,
do
yeah.
everything.
Exactly. I don't know why, because technically I'm sure we could like evolve a sound that, you know, the same sound with one synth in this case, because they're all kind of similar.
Yeah.
But well, you know, once you're in the flow, you just keep adding stuff and, you know, experimenting. And then there's obviously the lead as well. And I can also hear some vocal stuff going on under here.
Those
It's
are
like
just little samples,
that's like an owl or something. But we work a lot with that kind of stuff, just to, you know, make the beats more interesting. Because you can hear lots of stuff like that in hip hop as well.
Yeah. Jay Dilla.
Yeah, man.
You just hear vocal chops everywhere and just
Yeah.
like, oh, where did that come from? It's nice atmosphere stuff.
And then you have plenty of synths doing exactly like the bass line, looking at how we made that. This is like just a bunch of stuff added on top of each other to make it sound filling.
Wow, it's a
They're
lot.
so yeah, they're so subtle like.
Yeah.
They're so subtle that you don't like, it's almost as unnecessary to use them, but they do something. Like when we unmuted them in like the whole thing, we're like, there's something, they just give them that extra push.
Sure. So yeah, you kind of like layer up different versions of silence to create different timbres.
Yeah.
Would you then like group that maybe into one, so you can process it with one channel?
It's kind of random how we do that, but yeah, like in this case, if I play.
I think it's different mixes on some of the sounds, isn't it?
Yeah, let's see what we got going on.
It all
here.
depends on what kind of sounds you use, I guess.
But as you can see here, we have this one has one kind of compression and some true verb to add some ambience. EQ, reverb again, EQ, phaser, reverb.
And that's just one sound
Yeah.
within the layered sounds.
It's this one and this one, I guess. Yeah. So that's for that one, but let's take a look what we got here.
It's reverb and EQ.
Yeah, it's not as much as going on for this one.
But you're just rolling things off to make sure there's no
Exactly.
no end.
Yeah, that's really important because you want to have the bass moving in that area right here instead of having it just all, you know, mashed together.
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes a huge difference when you mix.
I guess all of that kind of
there's-
affects the thickness of the sound. It's all very
Exactly.
subtle individually, but it allows
There's
you
a
to
lot.
have less elements,
Yeah.
but still have a thick, full sound.
And here we got the little vocal chops we talked about before. Also just simple EQ and some reverb. There's another quiet one.
How do you decide that's enough now? You just keep going.
So I think in this case we because remember it was way like more the lead were like kind of rough before,
Right.
way more meaty, but we kind of wanted that airy vibe.
Yeah.
So we just kept lower everything until it, you know, this is at the point where it almost doesn't make a difference, but it somehow still does.
Yeah.
Maybe it's all in our head, I don't know, but I think we're very happy with the song and that's, we just tweak everything until we're happy with it.
For the drums,
Yeah.
in the drop, and for the kick in the drum sounds, those are samples. Do you have your own library that you go to, or do you have a certain sample pack you
There
always sample from?
Are a lot of, as you can see here, it's like the library selector for FL, and there's a lot of sample packs that we work with. The Vengeance ones are great, but they're kind of overused though. So
Yeah,
we
for
started
sure.
looking elsewhere for drums and stuff. Machine has a very solid bass library that has a lot of cool stuff. Let's take a look at the drums then. So this is our kick drum. Nothing crazy going on here really. It's just that one. Sometimes we tend to layer drums as well because you want to have like different sub and a different high end and, you know,
Yeah.
stuff like that. some simple compression. So that's without, that's with. It's a little bit snappier.
Yeah.
And EQ.
Brings up the body a bit.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little makes it a little bit heavier. And then these things are like sidechain.
Okay.
So the ghost kick basically.
Yeah. So
One for the vocal and one for the bass leads and all that.
so yeah. So this one, on the other hand, is our like sidechain kick. So as you can see, everything is moving when that one hits. So we have linked all these channels to this one, and it's called 3DP controller. Then you can, it's kind of easy to set how the sidechain is gonna sound by just like using these different wheels. There's just 2 or 3 options, which is really basic.
And for the rest of the percussion and the hats and the snares, it's kind of got a bit of a garagey feel to it.
Exactly.
Was that programmed? Did you play it in?
It's loops.
We're sampling loops
Yeah.
a lot actually because sometimes it's more fun to do that, but sometimes it's more nice to do your own drums. In this case, it was more nice to just do it as easy as possible, to be honest, and just like cut it a little bit and not be too complicated.
Yeah.
We did our own drums first. We found these loops from a pack that we got from a friend, and it just sounded good, so we just kept it to that. Usually we put loops in the beginning of a song, and then we might do our own stuff out of it. But in this case, it was just they were so tight and sounded good, so it was just unnecessary to change it.
Yeah, and I think, see, these ones are even like, some of them are unprocessed. This has no FX channel. And that's like a key rule for us when we work. I think if it sounds good, it sounds good. Like, that's like the same. I think the more you know about production, the less you have to care, in a way. Because in the beginning, we were really like picky with how, it has to be EQ'd, it has to be compressed or whatever. Now, not so much. Here's some though. Just some.
Again, just rolled off.
Yeah, exactly. Just isolated. Like, see, this is a full loop, but we only used like the very end of it. Some hi-hats. Also just rolled off. And basically in the verses, or the breakdowns, like over, let's see, like over here. It's just like the same beat, but without the kick drum on it, just to keep it moving,
Yeah. And the new pads that are introduced, that's just another element in terms of the compositional
Exactly.
aspect.
Yeah.
And when do you process drums together and compress them together or anything like that?
Yeah, in this case,
Let's see what we got going on.
I don't know if we did it in this song.
Yeah, doesn't seem like it. Usually we do it though, so it's kind of weird.
Yeah, we usually like bust everything to one, at least kick drum and clap and snare.
Yeah.
But I think in this case we didn't. We were supposed to do it, but then it didn't sound better. So we just left it to what it is. Because sometimes like compressing everything can just destroy also the whole thing.
For sure.
Because
yeah.
today if you put samples in, they can already be as so processed already, and if you do more, just overdo it. So
Yeah, but yeah. Otherwise, it's quite a good. If you want like your drum tight, it's a good grip. To just send everything to one.
yeah, that's more better when we've been working with like 808 samples, 909, 707, and all those are way more nice to do that with because they need to be processed. But a lot of like, for instance, house kick drums that from Vengeance and stuff like that, it's already they're already done. Like you don't have to do anything.
Yeah, totally. And this is just a little filler that goes throughout the loop, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a fruit slicer we talked about before.
Yeah, let's see
That
if we can
slices
get
up
that.
samples for you.
So
You
this
see
is
here.
This is like a whole loop.
Oh, right, so it's like a percussion loop, yeah.
Yeah.
So basically you get all those parts by itself and so you can just cut it and do that instead of just doing it in the audio
Yeah.
thing. It's much easier to see everything.
All
All right, so there's just kind of towards the outro, there's a part where a new melody comes in with
Exactly.
the same sound.
Just to bring some extra life to the outro, and it's obviously the drums and everything were muted now, just so we could hear it easier. It's nothing really. It's not advanced at all. It just goes a few notes over the regular melody. Yeah, and it kind of enhances the bass line rather than the because that melody is already so messy, so that just got weird if we would add stuff there. So that's also silent. And it's on channel 5. Here we got some. Now we tend to use this one a lot, Classic Reverb. It's like a free plugin. And it makes all the difference. Let's see. Gives that analog feel to it.
It just makes it sound like crap, and it's good.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
I need that plugin.
Yeah. It's good. The basic filters, reverb. This track is about a year old now. Like we've been working on it on and off.
Yeah, sure.
So there are some plugins that we don't really use that much of anymore. We recently invested in what's that reverb plug?
Valhalla Room.
Yeah.
Oh, Valhalla Room.
Yeah, that one is really good.
Yeah, we've been keep using Fruity Reverb for ages, and now like some of the waves were reverbs, but never really used that either too much. So now when we got Valhalla Room, it just made life so much easier because it sounds so nice, and you can and there's also the vintage reverb, which make it sound a little bit more bad, I guess, but it's still like so nice and it's so easy to use, which I think if the Waves reverbs are a little bit not complicated, but in order to make it sound nice, you have to do a lot. Yeah. And I don't want to work too much. I just want to put a reverb on there and just press a button on the mix and it will sound nice.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the perfect thing for us, I guess.
Moving on to some of the effects, there are actually a few cool stuff going on, like the one we just heard here.
Is it a dog barking?
Is it? It might be. Let's see, what is it? It's 400. Okay, let's see how it sounds. I don't even know what that is.
Sounds good though.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great tip too. Just put weird stuff in there to make it unique. That's like rain or pens or something.
But again, I mean, it sounds, you're describing it quite flippantly, but actually, because we're making what essentially is loop-based music when it comes down to it, these little things they're not time stretched to fit with the BPM.
Exactly.
They're not exactly on the grid.
Yeah.
They make such a big difference in the overall
picture.
They really
do.
100%.
Yeah.
Do you have like a set group of plugins you use on the master?
We usually use this too. It's also free limiter plugin from the same as the Reverb, Carriage Juice Audio, and it's been working nice for us since the beginning. But
as you can see, there's no logic really.
No, we like usually we like nowadays we change our master channel a little bit. We do now. You can see we have an R bass on the master, which is really like against all rules. Yeah. But it sounds good.
Yeah.
And because we were searching for the whole like more bassy feel in the song. Yeah. And since we usually master ourselves, we tend to put this kind of stuff on just to try it, and it sounded good, so we kept it. We used a multiband just to get a little bit more pressure, like compression on there.
Yeah.
And this
another multiband,
which is we use this almost in all songs.
Yeah. It's
It's
Avengers one.
very easy to use. It sounds quite good if you know how to handle it. We
Notice.
usually go with presets and take down a mixer. It's not 100% there,
Yeah.
and it sounds great. And nowadays we use a lot of Ozone actually.
Yeah.
We fell in love with that. People have been talking about it for years, but we haven't cared. And now it's just,
Is that Ozone 6, the latest one?
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's so good and so easy to use. I've always thought it looked so complicated, but it's so easy to use. And then we have EQ, just low cut and high cut. We usually just use the low cut.
Automate that.
Automate that in the song
Right, like a DJ filter.
Exactly.
a little bit, just to take out some frequencies on some places and stuff like that. And then we usually have actually reverb on where we do these kind of stuff. You see here. Yeah.
Right, so the whole track.
So you see right before the drop, we usually do this too. So we swipe it up so it goes like.
You get like a small swish out of it.
Boom.
Yeah,
So it just makes a small thing that you barely hear, but it sounds like it's like an FX that you put it before something hits, and it's quite nice. We always used it. So this I would say is a kind of standard master without the R bass. That was an exception, but yeah,
Cool. So you always go to that free limiter plugin.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
use that a lot. Yeah.
in every
Classic.
everyone,
Yeah.
like every single master. It's because you just put everything to 0, and then you don't have to care.
Yeah.
And that's just the nice part about it. But other than that, we're pretty easygoing. At least on this song, we were very easygoing.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Seems like
But,
it.
but I think like we did mix and master it for like 3 days, I think,
Yeah.
in the studio together, and then we actually took away so much. I think that's why it's not that much now, because I think there was like waves plugins everywhere. There was this and that, and distortion, and then we just removed as much as we could, because it was just a mess.
Yeah. So what would be your piece of advice for anyone who's a bedroom producer now trying to get their mixes to sound better?
Go for the feeling first and make sure the song it's a good song, and then when you have that, you can start working with sounds. And then it's also practice. Like you
Yeah.
listen to songs that you think have good mixing, try to interpret that or whatever, and just try to make it sound similar. And then when you have that, you have the tools, because you created your own mixer. You can save them and then use it all over again on basses, kicks, drums, like all kinds of drums and synths and everything.
Yeah.
And also same for the master. If you find a good master plugin that you use on another song, you can use it forever if you want to. So that's what we always been doing. We always listen to the songs that we like the most and just try to how do they do that? How do they get so much bass here? And then we try to do our own thing out of it.
And then also, it's not always logical. Like if you think something is made by compression, it's not necessarily true. It could be something else. So be creative when you use plugins. Like I said before, use stuff what it's not supposed to be for. And that's actually you who learned me that, because when we first started working together, I was studying musical engineering, and I was very organized and
Very scientific.
No. Like the EQ has to come here and stuff like that. But then like I said, the more you the more you learn, the less you need to care, which is really good.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming.
Great, thanks for
Thanks so
having
much.
us.
Nice one.
I'm going